Underwater waterfall, Mauritius. Mauritius is known for its idyllic beaches and crystal clear sea. Still, there's an unbelievable phenomenon at the island's southwest corner. It appears to be an underwater waterfall. Despite how it looks, this isn't actually a flowing region of water, but instead, an optical illusion that happens because of the seafloor structure. The island sits on an ocean shelf no more than 500 feet deep at the edge of the shelf. However, it soon plunges to depths of almost 2.5 miles, and what you're actually seeing in the underwater waterfall is not water falling down into the abyss, but particles of sand that are being pushed over by the current. Glowworm Caves, New Zealand. New Zealand is one of the most scenic countries in the world, but beyond the peaks of the mountain ranges, the deep valleys, and the glaciers are a series of caves that seem to have come straight from a fairy tale. This is because they're home to glowworms, the species of fungus known locally as TTY, which means projected over water. The bioluminescence produced in the insects' abdomens is designed to attract prey. It results from a chemical reaction between a luciferase enzyme and a molecule of lucifer. It creates one of the most stunning sights you can see in the natural world. It makes for a magical boat ride through the cavern when thousands of glowworms are active. Tianzi Mountains, China. China's Tianzi Mountains in the Hunan province are some of the most unusual mountain formations in the world, covering an area of around 17,000 acres. They're made from quartz sandstone and first began to emerge from the earth about 400 million years ago. The subsequent rock erosion has created these skinny mountains, which reach a peak of 3,976 feet. They are named after the legend of a farmer who revolted against an oppressive regime and called himself the Son of Heaven. There's something mystical about the mountains when they are covered in mist, and it's no surprise they were the inspiration for mountainscapes in movies like Avatar. They're one of the most popular tourist destinations in the region. Grand Prismatic Spring, Wyoming, USA. The stunningly colorful Grand Prismatic Spring is in Yellowstone National Park and is the largest hot spring in the USA. It's bigger than a football field at about 370 feet wide, and with a depth of at least 160 feet, you could fit a 10-story building inside. The spring is fed through a crack in its floor, through which as much as 560 gallons of water is released into it every minute. Its normal temperature is 160 degrees Fahrenheit. As a result, it's surrounded by such vibrant rings. The color is created by the presence of microbes that live in hot environments. And depending on the time of year, you'll see reds, oranges, yellows, greens, and blues. Mount Roraima, Venezuela. We're so used to seeing natural formations that have irregular shapes that it seems almost impossible for something to have a rigid design to it. Mount Roraima in Venezuela isn't your ordinary mountain, though, and its 12-square-mile summit is surrounded by 1,300-foot-tall cliffs, almost in a square shape. It's actually on a tri-point border between Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil, and has long been part of local belief. The Paimon and Capone people believe it to be the stump of a giant tree that once bore all the fruits and vegetables in the world. And the seemingly unscalable cliffs have inspired numerous stories, including The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Paradise Falls in the movie Up. Lake Retba, Senegal. On the northwest coast of Africa, about 18 miles northeast of the Senegalese capital Dakar, is a lake like anything you'll find elsewhere in the world called Lake Retba. It has extremely high salt content, which provides ideal conditions for Dunaliella salina to thrive, which are bright red colored to make the water appear pink. This unusual hue is far more prominent during the region's dry season between November and June, and the effect is accentuated by the magenta bushes that grow around its shores. The lake is an important economic center too, with thousands of people relying on retrieving and selling the salt deposits and fishing the waters. Catches here don't quite match what's possible in other lakes. However, to survive in such salty water, the fish only grow to around 1/4 the size they would do elsewhere. Red Beach, Panjin, China. China is a country that's full of incredible geographic sites. Still, there's perhaps none as surprising as the Red Beach in Panjin. It's around the mouth of the Panjin-Shanghai River, where the soil is so alkaline that very few species of plants can grow. One that does particularly well is the suede salsa, which has a deep red color and is why the region looks so remarkable. Mars was once thought to be red because it was covered in crimson plants. And if that were true, the beach at Panjin is surely how it would have appeared. With so many plants growing on the shores, Red Beach is the largest wetland area in the world. And together with the largest reed marsh in Asia, which is also there, the whole region is a protected area of natural interest. It's home to more than 260 different species of birds and more than 400 species of other types, including the rare red crown cream and black-mouthed gulls. The Crooked Forest, Poland. Deep within a forest near the town of Gryfino in Poland is a phenomenon that has confused researchers and visitors alike ever since it was first discovered, called the Crooked Forest. An estimated 400 pine trees have, for some reason, grown very differently from normal. It's thought they were planted during the 1930s when the region was a part of Germany, and after emerging from the ground, like usual, they bent towards the north for several feet before growing upwards again. It's not known why this has happened and why it's something that only these 400 trees have done, but there are a couple of theories. The first is that it's the result of human design, perhaps because of a tool used when they were first planted. Or the alternative suggestion is that they were all subject to a freak weather event, such as a snowstorm, while they were young in their development. No records exist to support either theory. However, it's pretty possible, but we will never know for sure. Stone Forest, Madagascar. Madagascar is usually considered a place with an unusual amount of biodiversity, but its geographical features are equally impressive. Within the Tsingy de Bemaraha National Park, the stone forest began life hundreds of millions of years ago as a lagoon. Limestone deposits formed on the bed and, due to tectonic activity, were lifted above the water surface. As the lagoon receded, more limestone was revealed, which was worn away by the monsoon rains over the following millennia. This, combined with groundwater erosion that formed caves that subsequently collapsed, has left a series of towers with canyons between them, resulting in the largest such formation in the world. Its name means one cannot walk barefoot, which is an apt warning. These pillars, some of which are up to 2,600 feet high, are sharp enough to easily cut through flesh or equipment, so have to be traversed with the utmost care. Rikhat structure, Mauritania. Also known as the Eye of Africa, the Rikhat structure is a strange formation in the desert rock near the small town of Wadane in Mauritania. The inverse dome is 25 miles in diameter and has exposed various layers of rock that appear like concentric rings. It's one of the easiest natural structures to see from space, but amazingly, it's tough to see from ground level. And if you were there, you'd probably be unable to notice anything different about it from the surrounding. Entirely how it was formed has been the subject of scientific debate ever since it was first discovered in the 1930s. The first assumption was that it was an impact crater from a meteorite, but the lack of evidence of any superheated rocks has ruled this out. Instead, it's been formed by millions of years of erosion of softer rock. That was probably deposited when the region was underwater. Quite why this happened in such a circular fashion is still unclear. Some ridges and valleys follow the concentric lines of the Rikhat structure, and evidence has been found that humans have lived here for hundreds of thousands of years. Fly Geyser, Nevada, USA. Fly Geyser looks like it would be at home on an alien planet, but amazingly, it's only about 20 miles north of the town of Gerlach in Nevada. Although you might think this to be a natural formation and actually the result of human activity, a well was drilled in 1916 to irrigate water. Due to the geothermal activity in the region, the water was close to the boiling point, so the well was abandoned. But a calcium carbonate cone began to form around the opening. A second hole was dug in 1964 by an energy company, but the water wasn't hot enough for their needs, so they abandoned it too, and the structure that formed around it is what we see today. It has a number of openings, which the water shoots 5 feet high out, and the entire structure is currently between 25 and 30 feet tall. Various platforms and pools have also been created across 74 acres. The water's unusually high silica content and the president of ALGA that thrive in the conditions are responsible for the solidified multicolored deposits around it. Gates of Hell, Turkmenistan. Not only is the existence of the Gates of Hell in Turkmenistan hard to believe, but the way it was formed is perhaps even more difficult to believe. If you had visited this place near the village of Darvaza 50 years ago, it would have looked just like the surrounding Karakum Desert, with sand stretching out in every direction. In the 1970s, the country was part of the Soviet Union, and the authorities were on a mission to identify all areas of natural resources that could be mined and used to support the growing population. In 1971, geologists arrived in the area and believed the ground below contained a cavern full of oil. They set up a test rig to drill down and take further measurements, but soon found there to be a large pocket of gas just beneath the surface. There are no official Russian or Turkmen records of what happened next, but according to the sources close to operations at the time, the liquid rainbow, Colombia. Cano Cristales is a small tributary river that feeds into the Guayabero River of Colombia, but due to its unique plant life, it's also commonly referred to as the most beautiful river in the world. The fast-flowing water passes through a region on the edge of the Amazon rainforest, the Andes, and eastern Laos and is almost perfectly clear. The riverbed has numerous holes and dips in it because of the way the rocks caught in the current erode the bedrock, and this has produced the ideal locations for a species of plant called Macarinia clavidra to grow. During the summer months, it takes on a gloriously red hue. Also, it provides shelter for other species to grow, adding yellows, greens, blues, and blacks into the mix. It's no wonder this place is also affectionately known as the liquid rainbow. And it is so unusual that many visitors still can't believe that it's real, even when they're standing right next to it. Nica Mine, Mexico. What's the biggest crystal you've ever seen? Well, however large you thought it was, it's nothing compared to what a team of miners discovered near Encié in Chihuahua, Mexico. In 1910, a cavern was found at a depth of 390 feet, which has become known as the Cave of Swords, and to their astonishment, it was full of gypsum crystals that were up to 3 feet 3 inches long. Then, 90 years later, another mining crew took things a step further when they drilled a new shaft and found the giant crystal cave, which itself was 980 feet beneath the surface. This cave had once been flooded with hot water, which allowed minerals to deposit in the crystalline structure.